Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Michelle Cousineau and I'm here today to talk to you about a topic that most of you know about. It's about the problem of the homeless in our country. Homelessness is on the rise. Homelessness, depending on the agencies, has different meanings, and with those different meanings comes different resources and different ways to get help for these people. The health centers of the country, funded by the HHS, the Health and Human Services, defines them as individuals or families who lacks housing regardless of whether or not they are members of a family, or anyone who is doubled up or couch surfing. That means basically they're staying in various people's homes, their friends, their families, things like that. Programs funded by the Housing and Urban Development are individuals. This is a much more limited definition. Individuals who lack fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. Because of each of these different definitions, that means different groups of people are homeless, which means different groups of people get whatever resources they may need. Who are the homeless? Well, they're children who are either on their own or have families. They are single adults, seniors, veterans, pretty much could be any of your family or friends. Friends who might be in school with you, family who you don't even know about. All of them experience extreme poverty and a lack of affordable, stable housing. And from personal experience, I can tell you that any one of us is one financial disaster away from being homeless. So how are cities and states and counties handling the homeless crisis? It is a crisis, and it's throughout the nation. Well, according to the National Homeless Coalition, they criminalize it. They tell these people that they can not have life-sustaining activities, such as sleeping or eating or sitting or even just asking for resources. Panhandling is illegal in most cities. They make it illegal for groups to share food with the homeless in public spaces. I can tell you that at one point an organization called Mission Possible in Austin, they host Church Under the Bridge. This is an activity every Sunday morning where various churches come together to help feed and clothe the homeless and to worship with them. Well, the city of Austin was going to shut this down because some citizens decided that they didn't want those type of people in their neighborhood. Well, that was fought against. As a matter of fact, it is stated that there is one councilman that was the swing vote. And the reason he swung in favor of Church Under the Bridge? Well, his wife told him that if he didn't, he wouldn't have a home to come home to either. So, in 2014, speaking of the food crisis, there was a 91% increase in people requesting food for the first time. And yet, so many cities were telling their groups, no, you cannot feed them. 34% of cities in this country ban camping in public. That's an increase up 60% from 2011. 27% of cities ban sleeping in particular places. While this has decreased 34%, there's still 27% of cities that tell their homeless population, you have no place you can sleep, no place safe to lay your head. 43% of cities ban sleeping in your vehicle. That's your private property, but you're not allowed to sleep in it if that's all you have. Most cities, Georgetown, Texas included, make our homeless population either go to a shelter where they may be raped or assaulted, or they give them a one-way ride to the county line. This is not the way we should be treating our homeless. They are people too. The criminalization laws have done awful things to them. It wastes taxpayers' money and resources. It violates the First Amendment of freedom of speech, the Eighth Amendment of cruel and unusual punishment, and the 14th Amendment, where it does not give them due process under the law. It is extremely expensive. The Utah Housing and Urban Development found that for jail stays and ER visits, it cost them $16,670 per person. Whereas if they just gave them an apartment and a social worker, it would cost them $11,000. They have decreased their chronic homelessness by 74% by housing them first. It also makes it difficult for the homeless to come out of being homeless. It makes it more difficult for them to find employment. When you're incarcerated, you now have a criminal record. Well, you can't get employment on a criminal record. You can't find affordable housing with a criminal record because most of the affordable housing programs ban anyone with a criminal record from getting homes. That's not fair. They have a right to a home, too. It creates barriers for them to get legal help and to access resources such as public defenders, just to hear their cases. So what's our alternative? How do we help these people in the face of so many cities and towns saying, no, they're criminals? Well, as I said, Utah found that they save a ton of money just in providing apartments and social workers for them. They give them the services they need to become viable people again. This has reduced their chronic homelessness by 74%, and they adopted this back in 2005. It is a 10-year program. The other thing we need to do is have our cities and states realize that they need to increase investment in affordable housing. Everybody deserves to have a home. Everybody deserves that dignity. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition did a research study that found that there is not one single state in our country where anybody working minimum wage can afford an apartment. That's not right. We should all have access to this. One of my favorite ways to fight this, in August of 2017, TEDtalks.com, I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but they did a TED Talk with Richard J. Berry, who is the mayor of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he did this because he saw this. It is a sign of a homeless man holding up a want a job sign underneath the city sign about calling for help and making a donation. So Mr. Barry wondered, well, does he actually want a job? Will he take us up on it if I offer it to him? From that sign, they found an alternative to panhandling called There's a Better Way. The program helps people up through the dignity of work. Through this program, they have cleaned up over 400 city blocks, picked up over 117,000 pounds of trash. They have offered 1,700 days of day work. That's amazing. They pay them $9 an hour to go out there and pick up trash, and they do it because they want that dignity of work. They have connected 216 people to permanent employment opportunities. These people now have a chance. Out of those, 20 of them were eligible for the first housing program in New Mexico. They now have homes. Over 150 people were connected to mental health and substance abuse programs. This is important. So many times we see the homeless population and we think, oh, they're a bunch of druggies or they have these problems and that. They do, but they want to come off it. They don't want to be those people. Homelessness is on the rise in every city in this country, and they face insurmountable odds trying to reach the resources that will help them become people again. Just to find food and a safe place to sleep is what most of them are asking for. The loss of dignity and their rights that the homeless population faces is an obstacle to them getting employment, to them getting housing. They need these desperately. We are commanded by Jesus to help the least, the last, and the lost. That includes the homeless. And just as Jesus ate with the prostitutes, the lepers, and the tax collectors, we are called to feed, clothe, and help them find their dignity again. It is up to us. We must educate the community and make our local government listen to the fact that there is a problem. This is chronic, and these people need us to see them as people, and that's what we must make our lawmakers see them as again, as people, not criminals. It is up to us to make a difference in their lives. Thank you. And I hope that you'll come and listen to my next talk, where we'll talk about how to solve the problem of homelessness. Thank you all for coming.